Hello, and how are you doing today? I hope all is well. This video only needs one episode, and we will be covering how to prep new, unfired virgin alpha brass for fireforming. I am going to use some footage from other videos and make a complete version here. You are going to need to know where your chamber's rifle lands are. So if you don't know this or how to do it, please watch this video first. Reloading series number 2, Finding the Lands. So stay tuned. All right, let's go. Okay, what I wanted to go over first is this is how the tool comes. Okay, here's the cutter head on here. You can see, very nice cutter head, and I love this flat base, it's really nice. And this is actually called the handle. I don't know why they call it the handle. And then this is the adapter, okay? Now this screws into here. This is 1/4 28 thread, which really doesn't do me any good for putting it onto my machine. So they say that they're gonna be making a 1/4 28 to 832 male, for putting on my machine there. But I happened to have a K&M M6 to 832 adapter, and this actually works. I don't know, it's a little loose, but once it's tightened in there, it's fine. And I know that they have this if you guys are looking for one. So this is K&M. It's an M6 to 832 adapter. Can you see? I hope you can see that, but that's what it is. And it works. As you'll see, now I can use my machine. So that's good. Now what I want to tell you is this is the only one that I have been able to find that will work with the small rifle primer pocket on Alpha Brass. Now I talked to K&M and he says, I could send him mine and he'll shave off a little, but I don't want to go there. I'd rather have the thing made for it, so it's well worth it. And if you want to get one of these after you watch this video, go to pmatool.com and get it now. Okay? It's called the PMA Alpha Small Primer Pocket Ultimate Uniformer, complete with handle and power adapter. Now, if you're going to be putting this on, I would get it that way and use it the same way I am. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Yeah, the handle is not what you think. When I ordered it and it said handle, I thought I was going to be getting a handle that this whole thing attaches to. This is actually the handle. I don't know why they call it a handle. Because the tool itself, the carbide cutter tool, is inside this, what they call the handle. And you can see it's locked in with an Allen key. So I don't know. I got kind of confused on that. But that's what it is. So what we're going to do is I've already started on this. 2 pieces of brass. Just to give it the quick test, and yeah, it works all right. So we'll come back once I get this set up with some brass, and we'll run off a few, and I'll show you how it goes with the gauge and everything. Here's my primal rates gauge over here. Here it is reading on here. Let's check it. Let me do this the right way. Okay, we are zeroed. Now here's a case. Let's measure this case first. This is 1223. Okay, now what I did notice is it takes a little longer with this tool. So being very, very careful. Slide it on there, turn a little bit, make sure it's flat. Keep cleaning out your shavings. You'll feel it shaving, and you'll know when it stops. Still going. This Alpha brass must be some hard brass. One thing I did notice about this one compared to the K&M, the K&M has got deeper flutes, which helps clear the brass. All right, 0.1239. Now that's exactly, oh boy. Here's those three I already did. $12.40. $12.40. $12.39. So we got a difference of 1/10,000th of an inch. Sorry, I'm not worried about that. All right, let's go to another fresh one. I know this is time consuming, but this channel, as you know, is made about precision reloading. So what we're doing here is we're ensuring we're starting from the same place every time we seat a primer. We don't want to be sorting our primers, and we want them all the same. So this is how we do precision reloading. Man, that cuts them really nice. I think that's done now. $12.39. Just be careful. Be careful. Don't put it on there sideways. Don't force it in. Now the K&M, I couldn't even get inside. So we're probably only talking a couple thousandths at the most, but it was just oversized, and this one is made for Alpha Brass, small rifle primer pocket. I'll be happy, and I'll have the confidence that these are all the same. Okay, that's done. $12.40. So that is really nice. That is really nice. $12.39 or $12.40, I can live with that all day long. 1/10,000th of an inch. So now you've seen me do this 1,000 times. I'll just show you a couple. All right, so now we're just going to brush the necks out. Boy, these are rough. And also much smaller than they should be. Once they're formed, then we'll get back to normal. We'll do everything in the steps that's supposed to be. Now, I do have a feeling that when I see bullets here, that graph is going to be all over the place, but that's to be expected. So this next one is going to be about primer seating. Now, this is the one that has probably had the most changes over the entire channel, because I invented the brackets to get rid of the rim thickness problem, but I'm making the brackets for 3 different types of primers now to be fair to everybody, so everybody can afford the primer tool they want without the rim thickness thing. But I'm still finalizing. I've almost got it there, using the Duraco PCPS primer on my short action customs Nexus press. There's 2 things I gotta give up when using the Nexus, and that's I use the spring action of the primer loader, okay? And also, unless I wanna lock that, the handle forward somehow, I can only use the shortened primer tube, which is no biggie to me. Now, these are the 2 formulas for seating your primers. Whether you're from the group that uniforms your primer pockets or from the group that doesn't uniform your primer pockets, which I'll never be able to understand, but that's okay. We have a formula for both of us here. So, if you are uniforming your primer pockets, see this one right here. So here, I'm using Federal small rifle match primers, number GM205M, and here's the lot number. Okay? Now, my primer pocket depth, uniformed, all of them are .1225, negative 1225. So I know that, so I'm going to plug in that number there. Now, getting a good sample of primers out of this batch, I would say get 100. If you buy them by the 1,000, take 100. If you buy them by 100, I don't know, take 100 of that 100 you just bought. But I would get at least a sample of 100 out of 1,000. Okay. So the shortest primer height out of all that I measured, 100 of them, was .1186. So I'll plug that number in here. Now, this here number is subtracting this, number 1, from number 2, and that gives us that, .0039. Now, what that tells us is that our anvils are just touching the bottom of the primer pocket. Okay, just touching. So, of course, the longer primers, here we got the shorter primer, the longer ones could all be touching there. We don't know that. Okay? That's why we're working with the shortest one to give us that depth. So, 39. What I always like to do is add 2 thousandths onto that. Okay? Which is what this column gives us. That adds 2 thousandths onto this column. So that's .0059. All right, so that's close enough to 6, so I'm going to try to seat them at 6 thousandths under. You know, whatever the primer comes to at, you know, its notch is close to 0.6 thousandths under is where I'm going to seat them. Now we move on down to here, if not uniforming primer pocket. This is pretty much self-explanatory. The same thing I just explained to you there is right here. Okay? Now, the only bad part with this is here's the same primer. Okay? Same lot number. The deepest primer pocket depth I've got here now is 1232 because these weren't uniformed. If these were uniform, this 1232, I would have just thrown it out because that's too deep. That was the problem. This was when I was using Alpha brass. That's what this old one's from. The shortest primer height was this, and that gave us 0.0041. But now that we're throwing into the mix different primer pocket depths also, you know, I'm still going to add 2 thousandths here, but now we're throwing something else into the mix. We're not even starting at the right place. So, at the same place, like we are up here, our primer pocket depth is all the same. So this is why I highly recommend uniforming primer pocket depth. If you're careful, you won't hurt your primer pocket depths. You only have to do it once. Then you do it every time you reload, and that's basically to clean out the mung. You're not going through the whole process. They're not changing. All right. So I need a cup. I put it underneath. Put a charge in. All right, that's 27.580. 28.9665. Now the next kernel in there could be really big. So I'm going to find a real little one in here just to show you how I do this. Although this is fire forming brass, so close is close. I'm going to drop that in there. And that brings us up to 27.985 grains. That's 15/100th of a grain shy of 28. You can't beat this. I'm so glad I switched over to this because your powder charge can make a hell of a difference. Like everything. Right now I'm just trying to do all this stuff for you guys and show you how I do it. But after we get done with this fire forming, I am very critical, especially for my match ammo. All right, 27,730. 27,940. 27.99. It all depends. These grains, as we all know, are not equal in weight. They can range from 1.8 to 2.6 grains. Okay, so it all depends on the size of the grain that falls. So now we settled at 27.99. I can't be happier than that. That's fine. All right, on to this step now. In this step, we're going to be seating bullets. And what I use here is this annealing made perfect amp press. Now I know it all looks real funny to you, and why spend so much money on something like this when you can just seat bullets in a regular old press? Yes, this is true. But this press is for more than that because it has an app that will show you what's going on so you can learn to better improve your bullets, and I will explain that coming up. Let me show you, first of all, let me pull up a file. Now, as you can see this file over here now, this is a curve of your bullet pressures as it's seating and the difference between them. This is a fairly good one. This is nice, actually. That's what it's supposed to look like. Okay? But now, we're going to start a new session. Now, after figuring out what my lands were, okay, and my lands were at 1.715, as I wrote down, and this is my dummy bullet now for barrel 7, 1715. Okay, so that's what this die is set at now. Now I want to take off 10 thousandths. I want to keep them long for fire forming to get as much pressure in there without going into any danger zone, and I've only got 28 grains of Hodgdon Varget loaded. So what you can do with this now is I'm going to set this down. By the way, this is the Short Action Customs Infinity APS seating die. This is made for this type of ram press. You can have the hand kind or this kind. So I'm going to lower it about 8 thousandths now, just to see where we come out with. So on this press, you can use the die setup. Alright, now you see that sat it a little more than what it should be. So let's see where we're at now. 1708. Okay, and I want her to be at 1705. So let's go down 2 more and see where we're at. Okay, we're at 17045, which is perfect. Perfect. All right, now that we have this set for the right depth, we're going to start rolling these off now. So I'll take this, and there's also a ring on here where you can set that to 0 now. Okay, and I put this white tape around here. Just so I can keep track of where it's last set at. So I'll put it at 1.705. That's how I know where it's set at now. Saves you time going through it all. So let's get some bullets. And now we're going to use the go command, because this will start graphing. This was just to set up the die. That is a very ugly thing. Now the reason this is going to be bad is because this has never been sized. These necks have never been sized. They've never been trimmed. They've never been anything. This is just fire forming brass now. Look at the difference between those two now. I'll zoom in on this in a little bit to show you better. And I'm also, what is nice about this is you can set this up to go auto run. Remove any weights. Did. Finding the empty weight. Now you put this on there to configure the weight with the die, so it knows when you're putting something on there. And we're good to go now. And this is how it works. You just keep on going. I'm going to do a few of these to show you how I see them with this system. Alright, let's keep going here now. Okay, so now let's take a closer look. So that's where our graph is at now. And you can see the differences in here. This should all be close together. And then as it comes up, it's going to separate. But this is really terrible. And if we look at our diagram over here, we can sort by the terminal force. We go all the way from 73 to 104. That is just not good. So now let's open that other one that I opened. Yeah, I don't care about saving that. Now, you see how nice they are. This comes across, and because in this here, if this is really tight, this means you got your brass trimmed really good to the same length, because they're all, boom, going up at the same time. Then they go up, they come down, they go up, and they go over. Now, if I was shooting in a match, I would pull these bottom two. The rest of these are great. If you see here, we're between about 100 and 85. 85 to 100. That's good. I try to keep it within 17 or 18. But this helps you. When you work on your brass, you can follow this diagram when you're doing it and see what's improving, what's not. That's why this press is so helpful. If you liked this video, please do the channel a favor and leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for all notifications to get notified on new videos. Also, here is a QR code you can scan to get to the website where there is a wealth of information and my shop page. Thank you for watching.